news this week that an 11-year-old child was shot and murdered, basically. And then you see people talking about who's not doing what. Well, you know what? What has to be done is this community knows who's doing this shooting, okay? And the folks in this community know what happened. You can best believe it's more than one or two people that know who shot that baby. So if you're going to do something and you really want to bring this community together, you need to start talking. You need to start opening your mouth, because this was a child. And I'm angry, and I'm sure everybody at this table is angry. So we're just going to keep flushing them out, because we cannot let criminals continue to occupy our city. And so on that note, I want to take a moment of silence for this baby. Thank you.
Thank you, President Hudson.
Thank you.
Whew. Wow. Anyway, back to business. I have item number 8, and I am going to call that one ready. Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for that statement. I have items 9.
Nope.
Okay, I think everybody forgot we had council today. All right, so I'm gonna hold this because I need her to talk to me a little bit about it. So item 9, Madam President will hold, because I need her to talk to us. I'm hoping somebody come through. Anybody? Okay.
She might come.
So,
Before the end, she might come.
okay. And I also have item 10, and this is the Clean Slate Act that we want to have a resolution, and I'm hoping that the other council members will be a part of signing on board to giving people an opportunity to have a second chance once they, commit their crime, do their time, that they can get a job. So that's what item 10 is, the resolution. Any questions?
I'll sign on.
It's on.
I'm on.
Oh, yeah.
Sign on. Before we sign off, okay, we're good.
Okay.
I'm gonna call.
And if Julie comes in, we'll go
Yeah,
back.
huh?
No one you want.
No, I was just gonna make sure, I know we have Melanowski and
Yes.
Latif here from the police department. I just wanted to know if they had a comment, or Pablo, about Clean Slate or anything. No? Okay, all right.
Councilor,
Yes.
Jen Tiff was going to speak to the first.
For
Julie.
9? Okay, so we'll go back to 9. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Jen Tift, Director of Strategic Initiatives. So number 9 is an amendment to an ordinance that was previously approved by council in 2021, granting funds to the Syracuse Urban Partnership for administration of the summer youth program. Sorry, Councilor, were you going to ask a question?
So, go ahead. I'll talk afterward.
Sure. So essentially, we are doing an adjustment to their overall budget by $60,000 to reimburse them for costs out of pocket that they spent to serve an additional about 90 children this past summer. So I think folks will remember we initially gave some money to the United Way for 2021, as well as Syrup. United Way actually was not able to spend all of the funding we gave to them for summer youth, so they returned about $128,000 back to the city. So this $60,000 is actually, of that $128,000 they returned, we're essentially looking to reimburse Syrup for the money that they spent out of pocket to serve the additional children that the United Way wasn't able to serve.
So to help you guys out a little bit, my apologies, I was looking at something else. This is the summer fellows program that we, I could say I ran, right? And I overseed it throughout the summer. And we originally said one number of kids, and we took more kids than we originally not wanted, because we wanted to take care of every kid, but we did more kids. With that saying, United Way, like Jen said, had money left over that they couldn't give, so we wanted to take this money, because the kids are already paid, and give it back to Syrup, because they took care of the money of the stipends for the kids. So Helen, you're making your face so scrunch. So for instance, we did 1,000 kids.
No,
We
I
really
get
did.
all of that, but I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how they didn't spend, I don't understand.
Well, they couldn't, so I guess there was a fee that United Way, we gave them a money towards a fee that they couldn't charge a fee. So there was an extra money, it was like $100,000 extra left.
In 28, she said.
120.
Yeah, 128,000 that they returned to the city, of that.
They couldn't allocate it.
They
Yeah,
couldn't allocate
to the
it
program.
in 2021, and we had limited that funding just to the United Way, so, and they had a single-year contract with us. So they returned the money to the city, but then, the burden was really on Syrup to serve the youth in the program this past summer. And so, of course, as the counselor was explaining, they spent money out of pocket to be able to serve more kids than we budgeted for. So now we're just trying to reimburse them for the additional children they served.
And all the money went to the children, so the money that they're asking back for that Syrup used all went to the children for their stipends of the program. So we went over, I think, by a couple hundred of children. We served more than ARPA requested us to serve, not that requested us to serve.
And it's only a,
So if I'm understanding this correctly, so United Way was supposed to have a fee that they were supposed to use, but they end up not using that fee?
A fee
That's what's left over?
a fee and services. So you remember this was a 2-year project. The first year, there was a certain amount of youth that was supposed to be served. They didn't serve them all. So the organizations, it wasn't United Way. So we got to say United Way was the pass-through. There was
Right,
other
right,
organizations
right.
that was supposed to serve the kids that did not meet those requirements. So their money was, United Way gave it back.
Sitting here
So
looking
this year, all it really did was just change the money over to this year and just serve more kids than what was served the first year. Literally, that's what
So
happened.
it's already being used?
Yes, and it's already been paid out.
Right, okay.
So you guys, I'm going to, step down to vote on this one, but it would be just to reimburse Syrup back their money that they already paid for our kids.
Okay.
and it's increasing the opera fund
And it's-
anyways.
right.
Right.
So Jen, who in your administration monitors and audits when the federal government comes and says, how do you spend the American Rescue Plan money? There's somebody here who's managed all this funding, correct?
Yeah, so I do that.
Okay, so you're taking care of that, okay. And you're satisfied with all the?
Yeah, they've provided all the reporting in terms of, an itemized list of the agencies they've worked with and the kids that the agency served.
Counselor Caldwell did herself?
She sure did. Yeah, she was very helpful.
Okay, then I'm satisfied. She's thorough.
She is, yes.
And the good thing about this, and I want to say that our youth this summer had a phenomenal opportunity and time. And if you look at the list of organizations that was a part of it this year, it increased each year, and hopefully that will continue to increase to provide more opportunities for our kids
Right.
to be a part of great things.
Yeah,
So,
thanks
thank
to
you.
the program that you all approved, I think we served just under 2,200 kids over the 2 summers. That's tremendous. That's 2,000 kids that got, a little extra income to their families and frankly learned a lot about leadership and work ethic and all of those really important things. So, yeah, it was a good program, I think.
All righty.
So looking to the future, do we have any ideas on how to sustain this after ARPA goes away?
Well, Mayor Walsh, we're hoping that, that's a part of what is going to be addressed in the 2023 budget with our youth, because, like I said, they're our future. And I just want to put on a note, when this first came through, this ARPA money, I was not on council, so I wasn't a part of the, the vote that we approved this, but I stand strongly with this.
And we all do. And I think that we need to look beyond that when we talk about sustainability. We have companies moving into our neighborhoods, and guess what? They're citizens too. So we need to start pulling on them to do some things to help the youth in the community.
Jen, just for the more of data, is there a way we can keep track of these youth? Especially, I see program like this, like the city park, just to see how many youth every summer are coming back to the city to want those opportunities. keep track of them and to see as they progress, you know, what is this doing for them? Is
Sure.
it inspiring them to continue to seek out the opportunity? 'Cause I agree with the counselors here. This is a great opportunity, and if we can continue to see the interest from the youth as they grow, you know, this would actually entice more reason to open as the data back it up. These youth want to be about looking for opportunities.
So what I'm gonna say, Cho, data in a year or two is hard when it comes to youth, right? It's the beginning. And yes, we do need to come up with some form of data that provides it all, but you gotta remember, this was 6 weeks.
And you gotta come up with some program,
Yeah.
because when, in the
Yeah.
city of Syracuse, there used to be a program in the summer for kids
Yeah.
that we all worked at, that
Absolutely.
we all were able to get toward our pension at 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to revisit, what was it, CIDA?
It was
Cedars? Like
OCEDA.
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 So we had a work program.
Yeah.
And they start 14 and up.
No, so this program, the Fellows Program, if you guys remember, it started off as the B. Gonzalez Fellows Program the first year, and Syracuse University and some other organizations stepped in. Allen Foundation was the big organization that stepped in and paid majority of the money for the first fellows during the COVID. And we realized from that point that it was so important that we need to get younger kids, and it started off at age 10. 10-year-olds had an opportunity to get a stipend from $2.99 from 10 to 13 and $5.99 from 14 to 21. But what's also not in here, which is very important that I'm going to say about this, is Syracuse City School District. I was able to talk to them, and they joined forces this year. So they had over 350 middle school kids that was a part of this program. But the kids learned about financial literacy. They learned about education. They learned about mental health. They had mental health therapists come in and talk to the children about how they feel, what's going on, and help the families out. You know, they did cooking. There was a multitude of opportunities, and each program geared it based on their kid. But I also want to say, which we have to really, and I'm speaking up for them, is that we have to figure out a way to help pay these programs, because most of them did this on their backs, right? The Allen Foundation gave up some money to help support some of the costs for, you know, some of the staff, but majority of these organizations said, we want to help these kids out, and how can we do it, right?
Can they come back if
Yes.
they're like young and until they're 18?
Yes, there's no, we want kids to continue to come back and learn, and, you know, because every year you add more and more to it, so, absolutely. Any other questions, Sure?
No, mine
No?
was-
Any other questions, Counselor? Well, like I said again, I will recuse myself from this.
Councilors, Frank Oliva, the city's chief administrative officer. Just to give a little more context, because we're talking about the old OCEDA program and some others. This was an extension with ARPA funds of the existing city-county partnership for the summer youth programming, which is run through the Onondaga County's Workforce Development Board, CNY Works. So we have a certain amount of funding that comes through CNY Works. The city and the county partner on that every summer. Because we had the availability of ARPA funds, we were able to expand that. And it's not just the city and county. There's a number of, as Councilor mentioned, the Allen Foundation has participated in funding because there's some youth that aren't eligible for CNY Works funding. So the Allen Foundation very graciously has added to expand that. And then there's a number of not-for-profits, the one we're talking about here today, and then On Point for College that all participate in that. But this was additional dollars because we had ARPA funding to be able to expand that program. We'd love to be able to continue it at this level, but it will continue, just not at this level.
And Frank, let me ask you a question though. So a certain portion of the kids get city credit, right? State credit. And then do they all get state credit? Or just the people that go through CNY?
Yeah, they have to be, so they have to be eligible for the CNY Works funding, and there's both income eligibility and whether they're considered in school or out of school. And so there's a number of filters they have to go through. So there's a large number of applicants to participate, some of whom are not eligible, and that's where the external funding, because the CNY Works funding comes ultimately from the feds, and they have some
And that covers
requirements on
them
it.
under the
Yeah.
state system.
Right.
That's exactly right. That
Right.
comes from the feds to the state, and that covers the bulk, but there's always youth that want to
I just want all these
participate.
kids to understand, there's
exact-
certain jobs out here that if they do them, it puts them in the state pension system.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
And with this opportunity too, it allowed kids who might not qualify for CNY Works
Yep.
to be a part of it, because it really wasn't about income based. CNY Works, out of our children, you know, there's 20,000 kids in the city of Syracuse, and we started at 10, giving kids opportunity to be a part of it.
Right.
CNY Works only, hires, I think, about 500 kids each summer, give or take, and I'm not sure what the budget is gonna be this year.
So the summer youth program is in that range, somewhere between 500 and 900. It varies. It's gone as high as 1,200 with some auxiliary funding. But the big thing, the counselor's point is well taken, is that there's age limitations. So a lot of the younger children can't participate in the CNY Works program simply because of the restrictions on the funding. So this was a great opportunity to expand the program.
And my last statement, then we'll move forward, because I know everybody like this. I just got to put this out here that if you guys look at the 2021 Summer Fellows Program and the organizations, you'll see there were organizations on every side of the town, and that was purposeful, right? We wanted to make sure kids could go out their door and go to the opportunity and not have to worry about, can I go? Because we have to keep it real in Syracuse that there's kids, some places kids can't go to, right? And it's not right. We're not even gonna go there on that right now, but it's not right. So we allowed that more organizations and to be a part of it, and so that it gave more kids opportunities that would not be a part of an organization. And I would say one of our major, S. Marie Photography, she did a program with 10 kids. In the county, I gotta make it a note too, the county did have about 81 kids, and they did give up money for the summer program. She did a program for 10 kids this summer. Some of the kids had, like, very shy, had some things going on, and now these kids have opportunity to have a job. So now they work with her throughout the year, right? So it created not just a summer, but it created relationships so that kids have opportunity to, now they have a skill set. They can go take pictures, you know, they can take their friends' senior pictures, and you know, answer. So I just want to make sure that we know how important summer program and all programs, we need an all-year program for our youth.
Is there a website or social media presence about all of these programs and the availability to our youth, or is it really specific to the organizations that participate?
No, there is, I think, a brief something, I think they were gonna put something on the city website, but because Allen Foundation overseed it, and I don't think there's
But
no.
even a link from our city website to, I know Ruth needs here, sorry Ruth.
So
I
we
keep
did
asking
that,
for
I know what you're
website
saying.
things.
We talked about that, and I know
Yeah, she's-
Deputy Mayor's not here, but one of the things that will cause, because we wanted to put a link, and I'm be honest, one of the conversations was, once you put a link and you put it there, how do you service everybody?
Well, even just information like, you know, Northside Learning Center as a participant contacted the director for more information about their program. Like, you don't have to own all of it, but just some kind of directive to find info.
Ruth Nangren, Director of Communications and Marketing. Over the last year, we haven't been able to because we were in transition, and there has to be some sort of lead time between when the programs are established and who the players are and when we can get that information up in time for it to get to residents. What we can commit to do is make sure that we check in with the stakeholders about what the summer will look like and what programs we can make, you know, we have available at the city and who our partners are, and try to get that out as some public engagement as things that we do in the summer is just regular public information. These are the things the city is doing. These are the things the city is providing. And we can direct people to those owners and those program managers
Right.
if they want to apply or find out more information.
Thank
So
you.
we can link to applications.
We can link to CNY Works or the Fellows Program where people can apply there.
Thank you. All righty, Counselor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 11 is an approval of a settlement which was discussed in executive session last time. So I'm assuming this one's ready, unless there's any further questions. Item 12.
Good afternoon, Councilors. Kelsey May, Director of Digital Services. So we are requesting to amend Ordinance 694 from 2021. This is an extension to the payroll modernization project for several months. with an additional $76,000. Reason for the extension and the additional funds to increase the not-to-exceed amount is for long-term support for deployment. So we're actually in the middle. Today is actually the go-live date for City Hall and City Hall Commons employees. We've gone live with parks. We've gone live with water. We've gone live in the first phase with police and fire. So after this, we are going into steady state. We're continuing to build out some integrations to our legacy systems, and we are wrapping up in the next few months.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but what's the overall timeline do you think where we'll get every department?
So Parks and Water has already gone live. Today, City Hall and City Hall Commons has gone live. DPW is going live at the end of this month. And so over the next few months, what just needs to still be done is, Police and Fire has also gone live. So finalizing just the integrations with our legacy systems to automate those manual tasks right now, doing the integration testing, doing a lot of the final testing, and then long-term support, putting that model in place. So the rollout, the deployment should be live or completely done within the next month. I'm trying to think the date here. Yeah, within the next month. And then after that, we need several months of long-term support and integration support.
Other questions on this? Okay, thanks, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Item 13 and 14.
Good afternoon again, councilors. So there was a $20,000 set aside in the current fiscal year's budget to improve the microphones in this room, which I know you probably don't really concern any of you, but for those of us out here really care about that. Unfortunately, 20,000 wasn't even close to what the bid came in at. So the budget director will ask to transfer some funds, but this is approval to spend $65,000 to completely redo the sound in this room.
Will they be wireless or not?
Can I just get in?
Please.
There, Don is here from Virtual Technologies. He can, add something to it if you.
Yeah, I would appreciate that because we're trying to figure out
Sure.
how
There we go.
$60,000 for microphones.
Good afternoon, councilors. Yes, it is in fact a wireless system. The major concern was to replace the DS Big Bench when you have a normal formal council meeting. And we tried to give everyone equality when we look at the table meetings here, like you have on Wednesdays. Everyone will have a similar, base station. They will be wireless. That means you could, as a municipality, utilize it somewhere else. You could walk with it and take it somewhere else and use it in a different room if the need was really warranted. But obviously, it's dedicated to this room preliminarily.
So there would be,
Yes, those will be all replaced with base stations. The concept that was the crucial part of this was that your chairperson will be in charge of who talks and when, which is what you used to have. Not that you're out of control by any means. But the idea was they wanted to retain that ability to limit the amount of contributions at a time. So there's various levels of sophistication with that, but the idea is, it's like raising your hand in class and you want to talk, and then you'd get in a queue, and then your chairperson would allow you to address the council.
So that would be the same here and also on the bench, or just?
Yeah, you can configure it differently. Like, for instance, this table meeting seems to be much more informal, and you can configure it so that the mics are always open for this style meeting, but for in case they're like in the
including that one too.
Yes, this would he'd have total control of that. He could shut this off so that if there's
And
Well,
when
Madam
you're
President.
talking about up here, right?
Yes.
So you're gonna be removing all of that, correct?
yeah, that
big
little box and those old 1950 microphones. Yes.
Okay, and then what about the thing that's under there,
Yes, that audio processing that there will be removed. A new processor will be in place. New speakers will be put out here. And the idea is that it's capable when you're ready to work with, like, say, virtual meetings and that type of stuff, for Farside. So say you had a Zoom room, you would plug that computer into a device that's in the rack that allow back and forth communication.
Okay, well, one more question I have to ask, right?
Yeah.
Mics are expensive, huh?
Well, this is very comparable to like a UN style, the top-notch microphone system. You can do voting, even though I know we're not quite ready to do that yet, but there are ways to do cast ballots on different items and keep records of that. It's not a feature that was requested of it, but it comes with the system.
I don't know if I
So-
like the comparison to the United Nations. Effective value.
I thought you would be proud of that, but okay.
And I know that the clerk has it, because I know she worked very closely with Frank, and thank you very much for that. So I know that she has all of the warranty stuff on that, because there has to be a pretty good warranty for that
Yes,
$65,000.
we stand back by, I believe it's a 2-year warranty in regards to the overall system from the manufacturer, and we stand by with, basically unlimited warranty for the first year in regards to, tuning the system, or we're having problems with this, or what can we do with this. We'll be back here at no cost.
It's in your hands, Madam President.
So what it's gonna look like is gonna be several wireless mics on the table here, and there's gonna be a wireless on each one of the desks. There's gonna be a computer that Don just talked about in place of that box there, that operates.
But who operating that?
Oh, it's gonna be simple. You're gonna be able to, Brian and I help you.
Todd Hogan.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a laptop, and underneath there's gonna be the new box there. So it's just, and over there, over in the corner there, it will be a,
Battery charging station
Charging
with
station.
extra units there so that, the batteries will last a good long time, and
Right, the council secretaries will make sure that the mics are, you will be able to see the level of the battery, and the mics can get put on the charge as needed.
So we gotta raise our hands so we get to push a button.
you can push a button.
You can push a button.
And that way you can keep, looking at other things and keep your hands free, and then they will call upon you, if that was the case.
So
Once again, the chairman will run it, but there's the needs, there's the options and variety that are available.
So we still won't have a hybrid system where.
This is the first stage. I don't know if Greg Lowe and Frank here, but this is like the first stage because of the emergency need of the mics. We push this to be the first stage, and and so these mics are compatible for
WCNY's broadcasts and that type of stuff.
Yeah,
So it's still going to be tied into their system.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the life of this new technology that we're getting?
What is the name of it?
No,
life.
For how long are they gonna be good?
Uh,
Technology changes so quickly,
It's like United Nations, so it's gonna go forever.
Well, these mics been here since the building
Are
was
they gonna be
put
good
up,
for
so.
5 years?
I'd say 5-10 years for sure. Yeah.
These been here since the building came.
Great, 20s.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm asking. I'm just,
You know how technology progresses.
exactly.
Any other questions on this?
Well, I just wanted to add that one of the things that we uncovered while we was, going through this is that not only the chamber need virtual communication that is needed in law, it's needed in several different parts of the hall, and like I said, that is somewhere along the line is gonna fall into the next phase, right? Frank and Joe and I don't see Greg Lowe here, but
Frank right there.
That's correct, Clerk. We're looking at all of the streaming communications throughout City Hall, upgrading some of the existing and putting new equipment in this room and adding to some additional rooms. So we're working on that right now.
Since we are talking about technology, wasn't there a conversation sometime in the past about bringing in a projector here or something?
Correct.
That's
Yep.
what we're talking
That's
about.
exactly what we're talking about.
Is that part of
Yep.
it all?
That is
Part of what we're
absolutely.
talking about?
But no. This is strictly the 65,000 that you're considering right now is strictly for the microphones. We're looking at the visual and audio and streaming technology throughout City Hall and over in the new, our new One Park Place. So we'll be bringing that to you sometime in the near future.
And I don't want to beat it down, but let me ask you a question. So after this is done, are you gonna equip the iLab in the different places to be able to be compatible?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
That's the plan, yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Gathers.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 15 through 21. 15 being advertised public hearing on,
Did we skip 14 or?
Uh-uh.
like, co-
Uh-uh.
Well, there's other, there was other, okay, there's others.
Yeah, we didn't do 14.
Tim, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, because
another
that 90, we was asking about that.
The second transfer, yeah.
That's for what?
How we're paying for it.
The second transfer.
Communication, Cherry Road
We did 12.
We did that.
Tim, can you just talk about the budget transfer associated with the microphones?
Tim Rudd, Budget Director. So this covers the 45,000 for the microphones. That's the difference for what we need, and 45,000 for IT, which I think is related to Kronos. And then we just take it from essentially one of the biggest codes, because it's still really early in the year. So from healthcare, and then eventually we do the mid-year transfer, where based on the healthcare expenses at that time, in theory I could add it back in. I think it's probably okay, but healthcare expenses have certainly moved more toward normal after being sort of low during COVID. But
Is there any possibility of us needing that back into healthcare or no?
there is the possibility, and I would basically deal with that in the mid-year transfer, which we give to you.
So where will we transfer from at that point?
Wherever there's.
I mean, here the date, March 15th is when the mid-year transfer is supposed to happen. What was the question?
Where do we transfer from if we indeed we need that money?
Well, then I would have a better sense of all the other codes and where there might be something, where something's under, and I would move the extra. But our financial reporting is sort of lagged.
Awkward silence.
Very diplomatic.
Thank you, Madam President.
All righty. Councilor Gathers.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 15 through 21. 15 being an advertised public hearing relative to the residents' input as it relates to the DPW proposal to provide standardized sanitation carts to the city residents as a requirement of trash disposal. An outline of the proposal is attached. The public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 1st at 5:30 p.m. here in the chambers. It is very imperative, those that are watching and the community members, to please be here so that we can get your input as we are going to bring this forth for the trash carts from sanitation.
Councilor, you also mentioned that you was gonna ask your fellow colleagues to, talk about it, at their TNT meetings or?
Absolutely, yes. There will be information sent out to all TNT organizations, as well as any other community organizations for residential purposes, and also the Landlord Association as well. Any questions?
Nope.
Any questions? No questions? All right. Number 16.
Afternoon, councilors. Corey Dunham, Chief Operating Officer. This is an agreement with SU for the Washington Street Garage to provide a minimum of 25 monthly spaces to a maximum of 125, starting in February for a period of 5 years with 2 one-year renewal options.
How many spots do we have total?
So there are 1,230 spots total in the Washington Street Garage.
And the capacity currently.
Probably, I mean, it falls, it falls generally between, particularly post-COVID, about 50 to 60% in terms of occupancy. So we have a lot of room in the Washington Street Garage.
And is this a new agreement with
It's
them, or
mainly
is
a
it
renewal.
current?
It's a renewal of an agreement that we already had with SU, but it expired, and so we're just renewing it.
Same number.
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure.
Thank you.
And this is the garage that city employees can park at free of
Correct.
charge,
Correct.
Any shuttle update?
So we are experiencing, as everybody is, some supply demand chain delays, and so we don't have the shuttle in yet, but we anticipate it hopefully within the next month or two. I'll make sure to let the council know once we have an arrival date of when it'll be delivered.
So in thinking about the other groups that have contracts to park in this garage, and once our fancy shuttle comes to take care of our employees, do you think there's gonna be an interest or an ask for the other groups that park there? Hey, can you give us a ride too?
There might be. I mean, we're there, you know, if they want to come to City Hall or City Hall Commons or One Park Place or the PSB. But I think a lot of these folks are, you know, we'd be happy to entertain that with Laz. I mean, they operate shuttles in several different cities, and so not, especially if there's a way for us to make some money off of it, I'm open to it.
Oh, so we are going to charge them, of course, right?
I think we're talking about people who are not city employees.
Correct.
It's an opportunity that we could explore, but no firm decisions one way or the other. Just trying to get the shuttle in Syracuse right now.
The monthly rate, which the council sets, do we like where it is? Is it in line with the market?
So I would, spoiler alert, I would anticipate as part of our budget process that we'll be coming to the council with some proposals of ways that we could structure the payments differently, and a lot of that is also informed by Laz, their knowledge of our market, their knowledge of other markets and how it works in other cities. So I would anticipate, you know, we want to do that as part of the budgeting process, so I would anticipate that we'll be coming to the council with some proposals.
Any other questions? All right, 17 through 19. I guess. All
So
right.
the mayor's appointments to the Okra Board.
We all set with that, everybody? All right.
There is a lot of Driscolls on there.
They're a fortunate group. If they need a representative from the governor's office, I know one too that we could add to the board.
Now, that's a great idea.
Oh, yeah. I would love it.
Family affair.
Yes.
Excuse me. Item number 20.
So number 20 is a new carillon to be, also known as the City Hall bells, to be installed in the tower of City Hall. As the person currently who operates the bells in City Hall, the song selection is very limited. It's not very inclusive. I think this is a great opportunity for us to have more inclusive music coming from City Hall, to make it an opportunity for community organizations, just something fun that either city employees, outside organizations could engage with the city on to diversify the song selection that we have right now.
Did this spear from that article that Syracuse.com wrote?
So it was in the works. It was once I took over and saw the song selection, it was certainly in the works as part of our budgeting process. But that article helped to raise the profile.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
Who would have known?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My song is gonna be part of it.
What's that?
My song.
What's your song?
I don't know.
Oh, well, see, I mean, we could select a song for each counselor. It could be like when you come up to bat at the Yankees, it could be Enter Sandman or wherever you like.
I don't think I deserve it.
But this will be a much more inclusive process and offers a lot of opportunities for the city to engage in something that's fun. We have a lot of flag raisings. We could really use the City Hall bells in a lot better way.
Absolutely.
So this will provide us a lot more opportunities.
Any questions? All right, item number 21.
I will defer to the esteemed John Kivlehan from the Department of Engineering.
John.
Afternoon, councillors. John Kivlehan, Department of Engineering. Item number 21 is to grant a permanent easement to Niagara Mohawk for an underground power line and a transformer at the airport. It's associated with a new glycol facility.
Aren't we like the only airport in the country that processes that or exports that airport refuse? Do you know about that?
The glycol, I believe they recycle it for de-icing.
Right, but I thought we were like a repository for it for the country, and we were the only ones. All right, I'll follow up on that as
Follow up with the
Transportation Committee
airport.
Chair. It's not, okay. It's a cool thing.
$1. Any questions? All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 22 through 25. The first one is 24. Jake, are you addressing this? This is an effort, of course, by the city to sort of firm up our regulation of the cannabis industry after the pathetic performance of the state. So with that.
Good afternoon, Council. Jake Dishaw, Director of Code Enforcement. Quickly to answer your question, Councilor Schultz, I do believe it's one of the few in the region. Jason from the Airport Authority had mentioned that part of the reason why they created that to recycle that. So anyway, item number 22 is essentially, we've talked about this with other pieces recently brought before you, but this is going to now include adult use cannabis retail dispensaries, on-site cannabis consumption establishments, and cannabinoid hemp retailers are now going to be required to have a certificate of use. So these are the legal operators in conjunction with the state mandates and licensing. They will also be required to have a certificate of use. And that allows us to have some local control and authority over misconduct of the legal establishments. We came before you recently about the illegal ones. This is going to be more regulation of the legal ones, which aren't yet here, but
Right,
are
that's
coming.
the question. Will we have any legal establishments?
So this will put them in line with restaurants, bars, things like that?
That's correct.
Legal ones, okay. Any questions?
I got one question similar to this, and I spoke with Councilor Schultz about it and also Councilor Caldwell. Is there anything that we have in the city for these dispensaries as far as the distance? I drove around the city to a couple of them, and I saw some signs around, and there are some of these dispensaries right next to youth centers across the city.
So that is regulated by state mandates, and I don't have that in front of me, but I want to say, is it 1,000 feet? 500 feet, excuse me.
500 feet from a youth center that these can be.
I'll defer to Greg from Corp Counsel.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Councilors. Greg Fair from the Department of Law. So the state is regulating distance requirements in the cannabis law. The distance is 500 feet from schools and houses of worship. That's what the state says.
No, I think the liquor's 1,000, isn't it?
No, it's
No,
500 too?
yeah, it's up to 500. Sometimes it's actually less than that. Yeah.
Can municipalities get more restrictive, or is that?
I believe so in terms of zoning. If we wanted to go above and beyond that and create an additional sensitive buffer zone, that is something that we can consider.
Also, isn't there some kind of restriction on what type of marketing you can have? Like cigarettes, I know years ago they stopped doing it at baseball stadiums. Is there that for corner stores?
Yeah, for a cannabis retailer.
Well, yeah, well, currently even for cigarettes, let's say. Is there any for cannabis coming?
Yes, so the state is also, in the law and the proposed regulations, really micromanaging that in terms of how these products are advertised, who they can be advertised toward, signage, outdoor signage, all that kind of thing is under the state's purview. It is spelled out. So they're managing it, putting a pretty tight control over that.
Okay, I'm still stuck. They're saying 500 feet, but we don't have any legal dispensaries at this point.
Right. So the state, when the state issues a license to a retailer, they're going to be looking at where the retailer wants to open up, and they may also tell the retailer initially where they're.
Okay, I get it because you said near a youth center, and we don't have any, so they're supposed to just pop up.
Yeah.
Even that too, but even in the near future as well, I wouldn't want that to be right outside of a youth center or anything like that.
Stop.
Yeah, or the bus stop for kids to be around that stuff. That's my only concern.
So a legal licensed, state licensed cannabis retailer has to comply with the distance requirements established by the state.
Okay.
So an illegal business that's popping up wherever and we don't want them there, that's what we just passed our new local law.
But then I want to ask you this question though, okay, when you said that the state retailer, and we all know that the state of New York, they have nobody from upstate New York involved in any of the cannabis planning. So how do they even know what our distances are? They're not from here. So how would they know that?
So, like I said, when a retailer applies, there's going to be a conversation between them and the state about where they want to open.
I get that, but the state of New York think we're part of Westchester. So again, that's my point.
Sure.
So we've yet to go through it with Office of Cannabis Management, but the city of Syracuse will be involved with that approval process because
like you said,
Okay.
somebody from that office or somebody from downstate doesn't know what's within a 3-block radius of a proposed location. So
Right.
we're still going to be involved with that process. On top of this process, we're adding this to it for future regulation. And it's also key to point out, I don't have the exact details in front of me, but the number of legal establishments that we're talking about, that this will, it'll be minimal based on population, and I don't know if you have information on that too, but we're talking about maybe 10 or less citywide at a maximum, potentially. And that might be for a retailer in specific, but.
The initial number of licenses that will be issued in the central New York region is between approximately between 15 and 20. So that's the entire central New York. So it's not like initially once the state starts issuing these dispensary licenses, and again, that's right now we're only talking, the first thing the state's going to do is issue retail dispensary licenses. They're going to issue approximately 20 in the entire central New York region. A handful of those may come to the city of Syracuse, so we're not going to be inundated in the near future.
So this is all for new business. How about a business that is already established and they want to add cannabis to their,
Can't
menu
do
of
it.
things they sell? Are they going to be?
So they would need to get a state license to do that, and the state, as far from what I understand, is not going to be issuing a retail dispensary license to a pre-existing business that's selling other things. It's going to be a standalone, discrete retail dispensary, cannabis retail dispensary. That's the license that they're going to be issuing.
So with the liquor license, the council usually gets notification that it's gone through the chief of police. Will that happen with cannabis too?
Well, so as Jake just mentioned, the applicant who wants to get a retail dispensary license from the state is going to need to notify us. There's going to be notification to the municipality. So we're involved there. We know what's potentially coming down the pike. But then, as far as the CFU goes, it's going to be the same process in terms of background checks, fire, everything that already applies to bars, restaurants, drugstores, smoking establishments. It'll be the same process that we follow for.
So, Counselor, I think that's like the city internally deciding that they send us a notice when someone applies for a liquor license for the post office. So I think we should just make sure the same process happens, so the council's notified.
Ideally, yes, because much of OCM is built to mirror the liquor authority. So we would like that if, police and along with MBD and codes and zoning and corp council maybe get those notifications. But we will be, from what we're being told, we will be involved with the process of approving that before it's released and given to somebody from OCM. So, but that process is yet to happen, and we will make sure the first one we get that we're involved and that we adjust the process to make sure that there's good communication both ways and that these are being handled appropriately.
So if they come to us with 500 feet and we don't like it, we can amend the zoning ordinance to push it out?
No, we can tell OCM this is too close to something, it needs to be denied.
Doesn't match our.
Now, again, this is a piece to attach to everything else that we've introduced holistically to address this issue for both lawful and unlawful establishments.
But they don't have to deny it. It's not totally rest on us.
Right. But are you of the opinion that we could zone around that if 500 feet's not enough?
That would be something we'd have to, I think, maybe look into a little further and maybe discuss further in executive session in terms of potential zoning, zoning issues. But I guess if we know, if a licensee comes to us, potential licensee comes to us and says, I want to open a store and it's 300 feet from school, the state's not going to issue that license because it's in the cannabis law says you can't be there. So that's going to be a non-issue.
I think the concern here in the council is, having had some interaction with the state, is that we're not totally confident what you're saying is going to actually happen. I mean, not that you guys, I mean, I know you'll do the best things as far as managing goes, but as far as oversight with what they decide to do, I think I'm a little uncomfortable with it. What I mentioned to Councilor Green, I mean, that just getting that thing from the chief of police. Now,
Yeah.
what you're saying is that probably the chief of police, who will be the point person between, will you be you, Jake, between the Office of Cannabis Management and?
That's yet to be determined, but possibly. But I'll say this, nobody's, I've been riding OCM pretty hard.
You have. Right.
So that will continue to make sure that, you know, they're looking out for what they're creating for local municipalities to make this work statewide.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Any other questions of this? Thanks.
Thank you.
For your effort. 23 is the application for restore. And we have Eric Ennis here.
All right, good afternoon, councilors. Eric Ennis, Neighborhood and Business Development. So this item before you is an authorization to apply for the New York State Restore New York program. This is the first time the state has actually done two programs in the same year. So you may recall in the fall, the council authorized us to apply for the Washington Square neighborhood. Found out recently we were successfully awarded $1.5 million through that program. So we are now back with a proposal that's really focused more on key commercial corridors in the West Side neighborhood. So the Geddes Street corridor, West Fayette Street corridor, and then Erie Boulevard West. So we would be submitting an application. This is really targeted towards existing structures, but vacant, underutilized properties, really blighted properties in the neighborhood, and we are looking for approval to apply.
Eric, did we ask for $5 million for Washington Square and got 1.5?
We did, yep. So the same approach would be taken here. We would apply for the maximum that we can for a city our size, and then it'd be up to the state to work on the funding.
And I met Eric up in my West Side office, which occasionally I meet people, and I've been impressed with your plans on this and the energy and the activity that comes out of your office. Last night at the Land Bank annual meeting, the members of your office were there, and you know, it was amazing. We had some great news for the people from on the near West Side, and this will be really a transformative thing if we're able to get this grant. So I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Councilor.
So for the 15 properties on the list, is this that there's already a plan in place for what we would do, or is it we win the award and then we go to the property owners saying compete for the money?
So for the most part, it's the former. These are projects where we know there's investment. The state is looking for us to be able to show kind of what is the vision if successfully awarded and funded. Now, in some cases, you know, we know there's several land bank properties that particularly are neighborhood issues that we want to target through strategic demolition and other means. So in this case, we're submitting as much information about the projects, financials, you know, any renderings or elevations, all that is submitted, and then the state reviews as part of their process.
I got a two-part question. So did they give us an explanation as to why we were only approved for the 1.5 versus the 5 million? And then my second question is, because we know that, are we going into this one a little stronger to make sure that we can get the maximum of the 5 million? And if the organizations or the businesses, do they have a plan B for if we don't get the 5? So it's really a three-part, sorry.
Yeah, and it's a great question. It's a very competitive program, and so the state budget authorized the maximum amount you could apply for. This round is higher, so certainly that's going to be a benefit. The other thing is that this program was always limited to villages and cities. This past program, they allowed counties to apply, so Onondaga County also submitted an application in addition to the city, and so I think just from the amount of applications that were coming in from Central New York, just there's more eligible entities that could apply. So this year, again, we are submitting. I think that we are obviously making sure we're putting our best foot forward, but when you look across the state, because this was a statewide program and dozens of municipalities were funded, a lot of them received a lower ask than what they were applying for. So, but we are certainly going to go in as best we can for that full amount.
And I think I met with maybe 2 of the potential developers, but I'm a little on the side of making sure that they have a plan B, just in case we don't get all of this. Yeah. So did you have that same conversation with some of them?
Well, yes, I think we're going to be flexible and nimble, and I think that's been proven out as far as what's going to happen there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the conversation we're having with property owners, if there's a project and there's a gap that this may not be able to support, then other resources that could supplement that.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Sure.
How long does this usually take, Eric, for approval process?
The timeline. So the state is not giving us clear timelines on announcement, but what I can tell you is that we applied back in October of 2022, and we found out in December. So about 60 to 90 days was this pass round. Unclear if the state's going to move the same time frame for this, but that was how long it took last year. So hopefully very soon, but.
Any other questions? You got 24 and
I
25?
do, yeah. So the 24 and 25, so these are companion legislative items, but these are related to the Syracuse Developmental Center at 800 South Wilbur Ave. So the first item, this is related to the city declaring lead agency to undertake the demolition of the structure. So for many of you, as you're aware, it's about a 660,000 square foot structure. The city will be taking down using the resources that have been provided by the state of New York, which is legislative item number 25, for that $29 million award from the state. Now, in order for us to undertake that, the city has been working with CNS companies. We are currently drafting and developing a competitive RFP, really to demolition contractors far and wide to be able to get the most competitive pricing to take down the structure, certainly one of the city's largest demolitions that we've ever seen. And then that $29 million will go towards demolition of the structure, remediation, and then in addition, infrastructure investments that would be put in for pre-development purposes as we look to advance the project that has been before you before with Albany's and the redevelopment that'll be undertaken.
Eric,
Counselor.
we are, is Tim here? We're going to bond and be reimbursed, is that the idea?
So the intent would be to do that. It's not a legislative item before you right now, and I'll look to Joe Barry for any seeker specific questions, but my understanding is that seeker has to be undertaken before we would be able to proceed with any of the additional steps.
And Frank,
around.
Is this dress down Wednesday, Frank? I've never seen you without a tie on.
It is dressed down Wednesday. I apologize. You didn't look at the bulletin board? Oh, I apologize for that. So we're looking at the way we'll finance this. It is a reimbursable grant. The incentive proposal allows us to, that we negotiated, allows us to apply for reimbursement in 4 tranches. So about 7.25 apiece. We think we can handle that, possibly internally, but the Commissioner of Finance is looking at the borrowing possibilities as well.
We're going to bond in 4 tranches, or
We're looking at that now. We think we may be able to manage that internally without bonding, but that's not a sure thing yet. We're going to see what we can do. But the Commissioner of Finance is working on, and the Budget Director are working on this now.
And you work closely with the Finance Committee on this?
Without question, of course. Yep, absolutely.
So the funding, so what kind of money would we use if we did it like $7 million in 4 tranches?
Conceivably, so during the current budget year, we set aside dollars with your approval for capital projects. So we put a pool together that we're borrowing from ourselves to fund capital projects. We might come to you and ask to do something similar, or the Commissioner of Finance may decide that the best thing to do is to bond for it. Some of it is dependent on the cost of money as well, and the bond markets right now are starting to move, but right now it's still in our favor. So.
Okay.
So do we think sorry, Mike.
When we bid this, is it going to be one company does all of it, or an option to do part of it, or how do we handle that?
So I think the approach that we're going to take is that we'll be soliciting kind of the approach the demo contractor feels will be best. Now, one thing about the program with the state is that 30% of this award has to be used towards state MWBE firms. So it's about $8.7 million of this award is going to go towards MWBE contractors. So you can imagine and expect there will be subcontractors, whether it's transfer of materials to landfills and other things like that. There's a number of aspects that there will be subcontractors there. We will want kind of a master GC that's undertaking the demolition, but we expect there likely could be other firms involved.
This might be the biggest project we've ever done in the city. I could think of $29 million.
From a demolition perspective, it's up there.
That's why I just think it makes sense for us to be flexible the way we bid it to make sure we're not excluding. I mean, I would imagine most companies couldn't handle it, right? So to give them an opportunity to do a quarter of it or something.
Well, I think we can. I think we're under no illusion. This is probably, it might be a national outfit.
Right.
You'd have to bring in for something this big. So
I just want to fully understand it. Just to reiterate what you said, because it's state, it's the state MWBE requirements, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So that'll be the person to spearhead it, and then whoever they can get as a sub would be the person that would work under. So we have to be mindful about how many state MWBE demolition people that we have in our current area as well.
And it can, I mean, if within the state of New York, and then we've been starting to talk to Empire State Development about making sure, and we've been receiving interest from demolition contractors about this particular site, and it's a very large job, but it's a great opportunity for those types of things. So we want to make sure this is well advertised, well communicated, and the way it's structured gives us flexibility to really get the most competitive bid.
Just a quick housekeeping question. I noticed the letter was dated November 29th, and now there's only a week or so before the deadline.
Sure.
Is there any question that this isn't going to be ready to be signed and submitted after we vote on it Monday, or?
So we're ready to proceed. There had been some back and forth with the state just to make sure we had a good understanding, particularly around those disbursements that Frank was talking about, and doing it in a way that, again, we're not waiting for the full amount to be reimbursed. We have the ability to go in phases, which is important for a project of this size. So we had some back and forth through that process and just getting to these final terms. But we are ready to proceed pending your vote.
So they'll reimburse us in phases, you're saying?
That's correct. Yep.
Just so we understand.
Up to 29. So heaven forbid this project costs more than that.
Yep.
Where do we find the money?
Well, and you can almost look at it as kind of two phases. We got the phase one demolition, of course, right, being the most important, and then comes the backfill to be able to do the infrastructure work, and then really site preparation for the redevelopment. Demolition being number one, and then, but we did, when we were accounting for these numbers at that 29 million, we were looking to do hopefully 2 phases of the project that way.
And
So
we're
we could
eagerly,
bond,
go on, no, it's all right. We're eagerly awaited the design too from.
It's great. Yeah, in terms of a general update, so the Albanese organization, again, who we are now under contract with, is working with a local design firm as they're beginning to look at really concept designs. Now, a key part of this is going to be community outreach and engagement. This site is located between Skunk City, the near west side, and the Tip Hill neighborhood. So you will expect to see soon, and we will be sharing more information as we get more of a timeline around when that level of engagement and then additional feedback. There's been great feedback from the community so far through this process.
And I think we got to recognize and be cognizant of what might change in the housing, in the future of housing in this community. We need housing on almost all levels, and certainly something like this, especially with the Micron project being planned. So
sure.
So, to get a little bit on what Jen was talking about. So, if we decide to borrow from ourselves, and if there's a balance of more cost potentially, can we bond that and have a hybrid?
Well, I think as Frank alluded to, is the first step would be for us to be able to, again, move through the demolition process, receive the estimates and those competitive bids for how much we're talking for the demolition as opposed to the infrastructure. Now, I will certainly defer to the Commissioner of Finance, to Frank and the team, about kind of what would have to come back to council for authorization for us to do the financing for it. But I think that the way, and this was part of our back and forth with the state, having the ability to do those draws and disbursements in phases benefits us to be able to get reimbursed, as the project is going, as opposed to, I think if you're familiar with a lot of state programs, sometimes it's you have to complete everything before you can be reimbursed. So in this case, we're going through phases here.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just refreshing my recollection a little bit. Is it true that we already have, potential to developer looking at this space already?
So we have a developer under contract right now for really a portion, really about half the site for a multifamily housing development. And then, as you recall, there's a goal to do commercial advanced manufacturing on another portion of the site as well. So that was, as I referred to those conceptual plans, that's going to be part of that community outreach.
The key word is conceptual.
Conceptual.
That's right. I'm the conceptual guy. Eric, thanks for all your work and your efforts on
Yeah,
this.
great job.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Any other questions, councilors?
Thank you.
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you. I have item 25 and 27. We got quite 26 and 27. Interesting items.
Thank you, Counselor. Good afternoon, Rich Shaw, First Deputy Chief of Police Department. So number 26 is an agreement, application agreement with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for crime prevention through environmental design, or what we call SEPTED grant, in an amount not to exceed $4 million to enable a multi-department SEPTED initiative to address housing, green space, cleanliness, infrastructure and gun violence hotspots that were identified by the police department. So we have a collaborative effort going on. It's not only the police department, it's being led by Deputy Mayor Owens from the mayor's office. That includes the mayor's office to reduce gun violence. Pastor Johnson's here today for that, Johnson Kinsey. We're coordinating with Pablo Uribe, Ken Townsley with the lighting, codes, DPW, neighborhood and business development, and we identified the top 10 hotspots in the city for gun violence, and we're going to address them through the Septide project, which, for example, has to do with like overgrowth vegetation, illegal set-outs, dim or non-existent street lighting, blighted and vacant properties, maybe additional cop cameras or any other something that we could address to identify specific problems. I also have Lieutenant Malinowski with me here today, who is our SEPTED coordinator. We have him. It's been a full-time position for us in the past. In the civilianization process, we've moved towards, we just hired a civilian to oversee that for us. As a retired police officer, so that Lieutenant Malinowski can continue on with his other responsibilities. But I've been through SEPTED myself. I was a former practitioner of that in my former role. It works. So we're applying for this grant, and that's kind of where we're at with it.
Counselor, if this is along the lines like former lieutenant, the former lieutenant here was on the north side, and last night at the land bank annual meeting, your former officer Donovan was there, and he saw the lay of the land as far as the near west side goes. I was very impressed that he was there, because I think this will be very effective.
Yep. So that's what we brought on. That's what Lieutenant Malinowski brought on to run that program for him. So EJ Donovan used to work for us. He was our training director. He's a sharp guy. He's a former military, retired police, and he's wholehearted in this project. So, so this is $4 million, and there's no matching portion of it if we get the $4 million.
Can I hear from Lateef? Lateef, could you just go in a little bit more on this? Because I you know, Chief did a great job, but just I want to hear your.
I don't blame you, Counselor.
I want to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm Lateef Johnson Kinsey, Director of Mayor's Office to Reduce Gun Violence. So I think the important part to understand is that what I've been saying is that we have to make sure our neighborhoods stay neighborhoods, not the hood. The reason we see so many shootings in certain areas is because of overgrown vegetation, illegal setouts. These are things that we can control, that now young people see the area as a neighborhood again and not like a war zone. That's why we see in certain areas that are hot spots, and I'll let Pablo come up and give some words too. He's our fellows from Harvard. We drove around the city over the summer into our hot spots, and what did we see? Illegal setouts. What did we see? Overgrown vegetation. We've shown, and Pablo has some studies that show that if those things are lowered, if our streets are clear, if there's not overgrown vegetation where people can't hide, so police can do their job. We're lighting, where we have areas that are hot spots where the lighting is not enough there that the police can't see. We don't want criminals to be able to hide. We want to be able to see them. And I think this will be a big help initiative to clear our streets out so we can see at night. There are areas that are still dark, even near my church, that are still dark. And again, my grandmother wouldn't want to come outside if it's dark outside at 7, especially in the wintertime. She wants to be able to see in front of her street. She wants to, and those are the neighbors. Those are the ones that we're forgetting about, those that lived on the south side for the last 50 years. They want to be able to see their neighborhood again.
You know, when Chief Schaaf was a lieutenant, he was very effective on the north side with issues like this. And a lot of times the quality of life issues, you know, are certainly very important for those neighborhoods as far as to stem violence and crime. Yeah. So this is a great idea right here.
So in terms of you know, regulating illegal set out, what does this look like, Chief? Is this hiring more people to go in the street? Is it what is
illegal set out's a DPW operation. I don't know if they would need to hire more people to address that issue. It's something they address now. They should be concentrated on these areas. We picked 10 areas, so I think that this would become just routine to check these 10 areas for these items.
Quick question, I don't know if it's for Lateef or for you, but is part of this application, did it include the North Side Futures project that's currently
So
happening?
this particular application does not have any streets on the north side. I can read you the 10 blocks, but we identified these blocks through particularly last year, gun violence and 5 years history of gun violence. So these are our biggest hot spots. It would be 200 Sabine, 200 Barrett, 100 Dablon, 1400 Midland, 300 South Ave, 300 West Newell, 200 Fitch, 300 Richmond, 100 Merriman, and 200 Kellogg.
How often are these grants available, or this program, is it?
This is the first time I've seen this grant.
Really? Okay, hopefully it'll keep coming.
And they got my favorite word there, no match.
No match, yes, sir. There's no match involved. All right, next, anything?
27, yes. I got excited, okay? 27.
Number 27, so we'd like to approve an in-kind donation of retired body armor and realistic ballistic helmets to the Ukraine Friends. Ukraine Friends is a U.S.-based nonprofit organization dedicated to delivering critical help in Ukraine by providing humanitarian aid. They will facilitate the donation to the National Police of Ukraine. Description of the items donated is detailed in the legislation. These items are no longer serviceable by the police department, so these are just sitting on a shelf collecting dust, and we feel that they could be of use. We were asked to make a donation to Ukraine. This is for the police department to wear bulletproof vests and helmets.
So they came to us and said, can we have your
Yes, his
expired
Friends of
equipment?
Ukraine reached out, yes.
Awesome.
So this sounds good. I'm just curious what makes it not serviceable for us.
Their end of life, so a vest, for example, is only guaranteed for 5 years. So contractually, we have to replace the vest every 5 years for the officers, so now they're just sitting around.
Probably insurance policy.
Still works, but
It's like buying bread. It said it's expired on a certain date, and then it goes to the
I
discount
think I
place.
wore my first
You can
vest for
still eat
about
it.
20 years, but they're not guaranteed after 5, so.
Right, there you go. There you go.
I, of course, heavily endorse this.
Any more questions? Any more questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. This is a resolution to appoint Denise Welch to the Land Bank Citizens Advisory Board. Her resume is attached in here, but she is one of my neighbors, actually. She lives on the south side. She's been involved in a lot of things over the years, and I just think that she would be a great asset to join the Land Bank Citizens Advisory Board. So we'll be appointing her on Monday, and that's all I have.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?